Support for Radio Friends comes from Columbia Healthy Smiles, the dental office of husband and wife team Dr. Batson and Dr. Abe, offering comprehensive and customized care to patients of all ages. Learn more by calling 573-721-9039 or online at www.columbiahealthysmiles.com. Good morning. Welcome to Radio Friends on Wednesday, December the 15th. Nadia Navarrete-Tindall is with us today, our native plant and more expert. And she is holding several beautiful sprigs of native plants in your hand today. Good morning, Nadia.
Good morning, Paul. It's fun to be back.
Yeah.
And I just brought some samples of what people can do in the winter time to, just in case they don't have these trees. I like to, I use it for therapy because it helps me to relax, and I make these ornaments out of native plants.
Yeah.
And
so you made a beautiful wreath out of cedar trees.
Actually, the base is grapevine, and then I decorated with a red cedar, and you can see these maybe, you can see it in the picture.
Okay,
and
now
we
when
can
you talk
explain.
about, you say red cedar, some of the cedar trees have little blue berries on them.
Yes.
And some of the cedar trees do not have blueberries. What's the difference between the two?
Well, first of all, what we call berries are modified cones because red cedar is in the pine, it's related to pine. So they actually have cones, but they're completely modified looking like berries. What happens, the difference is between berries and no berries, is that some trees just produce the female flowers, and then in male flowers are in separate trees. So the ones that have the female flowers, they will produce
So
berries.
those are the blueberries.
Those are the berries that you see.
So when you're looking at a cedar tree, and we have tons of cedar trees on our land, and about half of them have those beautiful blueberries right now. That's the female tree.
Yes, and then another possibility is that maybe it's a female tree, but it's a juvenile, so it hasn't matured yet, so it's not producing flowers
it hasn't come
yet.
into puberty yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so it could be
teenagers.
a female, or it could be a young tree that hasn't matured yet.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the difference between the cedar trees.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk a little more about the red cedar. The reason I brought these, and I just see how beautiful you can make it into a wreath, is because the birds that feed on berries and fruits, they love the red cedars. I have seen robins, I usually feed the birds in the winter time with raisins, and I decided to put some of these berries, and they were feeding on the berries, and they didn't even care about the raisins.
So did you pull the berries off the tree, or you just put the...
I just put it on a flat area. We have a little chair that we have in the yard, so I put the raisins and also the red cedar like that, like a branch, like this branch, and they just eat from them.
Yeah, okay.
And
now,
comfort to the wreath too.
Now, the other thing that you brought along, the holly.
Yes.
Now, does that grow native in Missouri?
They are kind of not. We are kind of at the a little north of their original range.
Right.
But you can find them growing, and they grow really well in our area.
I haven't seen any growing wild in my forest.
No, there is an original stand in the Boothill here in Missouri.
Okay.
And you can still see American holly growing there naturally, but you can grow it in your yard. And also, there are two other deciduals.
So
two other hollies.
So we could actually grow holly here.
Yes, they do. They do grow. Actually, I got these two samples from campus here at MU, and they're really neat this time of the year because it's the only red that you can see.
Yeah.
And the berries remain in the trees during winter time. So, of course, birds if they are hungry, they will find them and eat them.
Okay, and they're okay for the birds.
Yes.
Then you brought along sumac.
Sumac.
Now, I always think of poison sumac, but this is not poisonous.
Yeah, and it's what I always say. One way to separate the poisonous sumac from the non-poisonous is that all the red ones are edible and good for the birds. You can use them to make what we call sumacade, like a lemonade.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that you can take that sumac, that dried buds of the non-poisonous sumac, and make
a drink, a cool drink.
Okay, so how do you know then that it's not poisonous?
Because they are red, they produce red berries. Of course, if you are in doubt, leave it out. But if you see berries, red berries, they are edible. They get, and also birds eat them.
Okay.
In the winter. And poison sumac it doesn't even grow in our area, and it has the berries or the fruits are from greenish to white.
Okay.
Never this showy.
Okay. The other thing that we have a lot of, and I think are just some of the most beautiful flowers in summertime, is the evening primrose.
That's right.
And if you have not seen the evening primrose, it's a yellow bloom, and right at sunset, if you've got it growing in your yard or growing wild, at sunset you can sit there and watch it almost like time-lapse photography, the bloom open up right in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that is just one of the most beautiful sights to see.
Yeah, and I let them grow in my yard too, because they grow on their own, as you know. We usually.
Oh yeah, they grow on their own. You can't really tell them what to do. I had a whole stand of them one year, and then this year they didn't come back. But you said they should come back next year. Yeah,
yes. What happened is that they're biennial, so they just die off, and then there is a new plant every 2 years. Sometimes they overlap, so maybe you have to do is we can talk about how to fix that. But I want to show the way they look, or talk about how they look in the wintertime.
In the wintertime, they don't look all that pleasant because they're dry. They look like dry pieces of hay sticking up.
Yeah.
But the birds enjoy the seeds.
Especially goldfinches. Goldfinches in our yard, they come and they stay on the little stem of the evening primrose, and they feed on each of the little dry seeds. It's just amazing to me but they know it. And we feed them with sunflower, but we like to add diversity by having native wildflowers. And these things, you can use them for arrangements too.
Yeah.
And then the birds will come.
Okay. If you want more information on any of this, you can go to Nadia's Facebook page. It's Native Plants and More. And it's always a pleasure to visit with you, and she's got so much information. Nadia, thank you for coming by.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Okay, please come back again. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you.
You too, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.